Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. If someone were to ask, what does a wealthy person look like? You probably get an image in your mind. Maybe it's how this person dresses, their mode of transport, where they live, or what they do with their free time. But a lot of this has to do with society. Society telling us that wealth looks a certain way. But most of that imagery that comes up saying that wealth looks a certain way can be rather deceiving, because just because someone looks wealthy in the traditional sense doesn't actually mean that's the case. Looks can be deceiving. At this point, most of us have heard of the book The Millionaire Next Door, where the authors depict what the actual everyday millionaire looks like, and it turns out they look a lot like you or like your neighbor, more so than they do those featured on The Real Housewives. But still, this imagery persists. So let's go over 7 false indicators of wealth. Having a fancy car. I recently did a video on how the car people choose to purchase can actually end up being a huge financial burden, and that is absolutely the case for many people. According to Kelley Blue Book, as of January 2023, the average price for a new car was just under $50,000, and that's a hefty price tag. This is made possible because 80% of all people are taking out auto loans for over 5 years. In fact, the most popular auto loan term length is 72 months or 6 years. And the easiest way to make a car more affordable is to stretch out that payment. I'm not saying that's a good plan, I'm just saying that it's very common. Let's say you're buying a car that's $40,000 with a 10% down payment. If you take out a 3-year loan or 36 months, your payment would be over $1,000 a month. But if instead you take out a 72-month loan, the most common auto loan, well, suddenly your payment is just $580. And it's a lot easier to fit a $500 or a $600 payment into your budget than it is an $1,100 payment. That's why these longer loans are popular. So with people stretching out these loans, it's easy to see how so many people are finding a way to get behind the wheel of a luxury vehicle. Just because you see people driving a $40,000 or a $50,000 or even a $60,000 car, that does not automatically signify wealth. Many people use their vehicle as a status symbol. A better financial plan for the vast majority of people is to stick to a more conservative vehicle. There's the often cited rule of 24 and 10. 20% down, an auto loan for no more than 4 years, and keep the payment to 10% of your monthly income. And keeping your regular expenses lower frees up more of your income so that you can put more of your money to work building wealth. Having a big or a fancy home. This one goes right along with the previous one. The housing market definitely surged post-pandemic. As of 2022, median home price across the US was almost $430,000. And of course, that does vary by state. For instance, in Kentucky, a typical home still goes for under $200,000, whereas in Hawaii, the typical home is over $1 million. So there can be drastic differences depending on where you live. A general rule of thumb is that your housing payment should not exceed 28% of your gross monthly pay, and that your debts in total should not exceed 36% of your income. Following a rule of thumb helps to ensure that your housing costs are manageable and that you have funds left over to do other things like save for your future or take a vacation, your kids, you name it. If you buy too much of a house, then you end up being house rich and cash poor. And as you can see, more and more people are signing up for homes that are taking a bigger percentage of their paycheck. I'm kind of ultra conservative when it comes to buying a home. I like to take the household income and multiply by 2.5. So if the household income is $100,000, the home you can afford is $250,000. I know it's super strict. I know it's ultra conservative, and it probably doesn't work in major metro areas, but that's okay. I like to have a lot of breathing room within my budget. I don't want a house to hold me down. And you've probably typically heard that you should aim to have a 20% down payment on a home. But keep in mind that the average first-time home buyer puts down just 6% of the home's price, and repeat buyers put down 13%. And also, you probably can't discredit that many home buyers might actually get help from family and friends with this down payment. We all have people in our lives who seem to take vacation after after vacation and pop those photos right up on their social media account so we can envy them from our cubicles. But consider that the average vacation costs over $1,000 per person, or $4,500 for a family of 4. That's not cheap, and it's worth noting that 74% of Americans have gone into debt to pay for a getaway. I remember a neighbor telling me she took her family of 4 to Disney World, and they went with the intent of making this the trip of a lifetime. Total cost over $8,000, and she told me it was gonna take more than a year to pay it off. I probably just would have photoshopped my kids into some Disney photos. I wouldn't do that. No, I might. I don't know. Get back to me. But what I can say is I know for sure I wouldn't go into debt for a vacation. I like to have my vacation prepaid before I go on it. For the same reason I clean my house before I go on vacation. When you come back, everything's done, it's taken care of, you have nothing to worry about. Vacations are wonderful, but planning them is a line item in the budget. Stick to a vacation that you can afford to pay for outright. Showing off online. This just gets chalked up to don't believe everything you see. The internet and social media especially is a highlight reel. So many people are on there just to show off. They're showing off their new purchases, their vacations, or just their very best moments. Just remember, you never really know what's going on behind the photos. And especially in the age of influencers, people with larger audiences, perhaps they were gifted the products you're seeing pictured, or invited to events, or even invited on vacations. Things that would ordinarily come with a hefty price tag, they may have just been gifted it and it was entirely free, cost them nothing. It is very easy to spend thousands of dollars on accessories. Arguably, it's probably easier for women to spend in this category than men, but I don't want to exclude men from this category. You have handbags that are several thousands of dollars and shoes that are the same, jewelry and watches. Admittedly, I'm not a jewelry person. I don't shop for it. I have no concept of what it costs. This necklace right here is over 20 years old. I got it when I was in high school. It's entirely fake, but I love it and it probably costs about 20 bucks. My husband and I recently went on a cruise. I saw a necklace that I thought was pretty. I tried it on. I asked the price, mentally thinking, okay, it's real, it's pretty. It's probably going to be expensive, maybe $700, maybe $800. The sales associate grabs a manager, so they're making a whole ordeal out of this. That should have been my first red flag. They say it's $8,000, but don't worry, they can make me a good deal. And mentally, I'm just thinking, there's no way you could get to where my starting point is. So needless to say, did not buy the necklace. And let's just add to the fact that you have no idea if someone is carrying a real, authentic designer handbag or even wearing real gemstones. And honestly, it doesn't even matter. I saw this amazing clip from Ocho Cinco.
Jewelry and watches and chains.
But you already had, but see, the thing is, you already had, it's easy for you to do that now, Ocho, because you had the jewelry, you had the car.
No. Never bought real anything when I was playing. Never. What was the point? I went to Claire's.
So all you do.
Yes, for what? What am I doing it for? Why am I buying a $50,000 watch, $80,000 watch? What time is it real quick? Please?
It's 20 minutes to 4.
How much that cost me?
It ain't cost you nothing.
Because time is free. So what I'm paying for?
Right.
For what? What's the point?
Right.
And honestly, I thought that was the most amazing thing. He knew there were better things to do with his money, so he decided to not spend frivolously. Brand names. Again, this goes hand in hand with the previous one. Clothing is definitely on a spectrum. You could have one person wearing a blue t-shirt that costs, say, $25. Then another person wearing a blue t-shirt that looks pretty darn similar to the other one, and it could cost over $100 and be from a designer brand. And make no mistake about it, I certainly think you should be buying quality items, but I don't think you have to go to $100 per item or some outlandish price per item. At that point, you're usually paying for a brand name. What matters is that you buy quality items that will last over time. And honestly, keep in mind, no one really cares what brand you're wearing or what your items cost. And finally, profession, what someone does for a living. A lot of people automatically assume if you're in a certain profession that you're wealthy. I think the big stereotypes with this one would be a doctor or a lawyer, but you don't know anyone's backstory. Maybe that person is carrying hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. That kind of debt burden puts a lot of limitations on your life, and it really hampers the wealth building process. Then you see these stories about janitors and librarians, very normal careers where people ended ended up accumulating millions upon millions of dollars of wealth. Perhaps knowing someone's profession might give you an indicator of what their income could be, but it certainly doesn't give you an indicator of what their money habits are, what are their savings habits, or what are their spending habits. Some people find a way to build incredible wealth on modest incomes, and some people have a way of inflating their spending as their income increases and never really get around to building wealth. Knowing what someone's income is or their profession is does not give you insight into their bank account. It is pretty darn near impossible to judge how wealthy someone is simply by looking at them. Remember, you never have any idea what's going on behind the curtain of someone else's life. Someone may heavily be in debt to finance what looks like a very wealthy lifestyle. Then perhaps you have a modest t-shirt wearing neighbor who could be worth over $10 million. There's just no way to tell by looking at someone. You often hear the saying that wealth is quiet. When you're truly wealthy, you have nothing to prove to anyone. Maybe you do decide to take a fancy vacation or buy a nice car when you have wealth, but these items alone don't indicate that someone is wealthy. And what's more important than looking wealthy is actually developing good financial habits that will help you one day become wealthy. What are some items you would add to this list? Some items that signify that perhaps someone looks wealthy but doesn't actually tell the full story. Share your thoughts in a comment down below on those ones that perhaps I missed. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye.